You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Thread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Jason, did you not see I was in here having a conversation with Barry Sanders today? Supposed to hold the show. Now Barry Sanders is over there bothering Chase. Get on out of here, Barry. We got work to do, man. Your show's over. Hit the door. Now look at this. I didn't hear what he said. I don't think anybody else did.
He said, excuse me?
Okay. What's going on, Chase?
Oh, man.
Anyway, we were in here, Barry and I were in here solving the world's problems. The next thing I know, I hear my intro music. I'm like, I gotta go. Wait, Chase doesn't wait. Chase doesn't wait for anybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTBC, home for University of Alabama sports. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld right there on the other side of the glass, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline at 205-342-9904. And we got a good show on tap for you today. I'll tell you what we got coming up here in just a moment. It is Wednesday, September 4, 2024. And this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union, member-owned and not-for-profit. It's just a better way of banking. Alabama Credit Union. I encourage you to find out more by stopping by one of their many locations, including their main office right here in Tuscaloosa, or simply going to alabamacu.com. They're your trusted partner for financial success. Embrace financial well-being with Alabama Credit Union. That's Alabama Credit Union, alabamacu.com. Loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket, just like I do. Become a member of Alabama Credit Union. Okay, here's what's on tap for today. We've got a good show. Of course, we'll be anxiously awaiting your phone calls. I thought yesterday was other than a couple technical difficulties, which we had no control over, and I'm sorry, I got a lot of messages there was a period there where you couldn't hear us. I know you couldn't hear us if you were online. Maybe it was just online or on the app. Might have been on the air. But anyway, other than that, it was a good show. Had a lot of good content. We got more good content today. One note on Kayla Anderson, our Titans reporter from up in Nashville. She was one of the people that we were trying to get on when we were having some technical snafus. And so I'm going to get her on either tomorrow or Friday with the Titans report. Plus, I got to get in touch with D. Orlando Ledbetter about the Falcons report and get that cranked back up. But today, we got Matt Coulter on NASCAR at 9:30. The playoffs are here. Kyle Busch is not in the playoffs, but he came close again. But Chase Briscoe, a remarkable win for Stewart-Haas in their final season. So we've had some great stories this year. Great stories. And we'll have the NASCAR report at 9:30. Then Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV. Of course, he normally is with us on Monday, but since we didn't do a show on Labor Day, he's going to be with us at 10. And so those are our guests today. A lot of topics to get into. Of course, Alabama football opened as a 32-point favorite over South Florida. And I'll be doing my SEC point spread prediction picks coming up on Friday, as I've documented and bragged about online and on my show. I went 8-1 this past Friday, so feel good about that. I will go ahead and tell you my Alabama score, because I pick the game every Tuesday night on Tider Insider TV anyway, so there's no need not to just go ahead and tell you. I got Alabama winning 52-13. So I got Alabama covering that 32, and I think South Florida's a pretty good team. I do, but I just think, Chase, it's rare in football when you win the game and then you're still looking for payback. And I know this coaching staff wasn't here, but a lot of these players were here. Jalen Milroe did not even play in the game. I think they have a bad taste in their mouth from what happened last year in Tampa. That was as bad a football game as Alabama had played under Nick Saban, in my opinion, since probably his first season. They played terrible down in Tampa last year. Very lucky to win the game. Or not lucky, but you know what I'm saying. They had to work for 4 quarters. Tyler Buckner, a lot of people will forget this. That's a trivia question now. For years to come, who started Alabama's game against South Florida in Tampa in 2023?
That's a great question.
Yeah, Tyler Buckner. Ty Simpson came in and kind of led Alabama to a win. But 17-3 was the final. But that final touchdown to put the game away didn't occur until the last couple of minutes of the game. This was a 1-score game. So, in fact, South Florida's kicker hit a career-long field goal in the first half to give them a 3-0 lead. Right after, this is kind of the way the game went. I think it was Terry Arnold. But right after that field goal, Alabama returned the kick for a touchdown, and it got wiped out due to a penalty. And from that point on, it was a dogfight. So I think Alabama, the players that were there in that game that are here now, kind of see this as, we owe these guys. And South Florida is going to come in here confident. They're going to come in here and say, Alex Golesh, their coach, has already, for the record, said, you know what, we can play with these guys. We can beat these guys. So it's going to be, from that standpoint, an interesting game. Plus, Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium will be dedicated. But I think Bama is going to, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I really liked what I saw from Alabama in that game against Western Kentucky. The explosiveness. Now, they do probably need to control the football a little bit better, but it's hard to control the football if some guy, you hand it off and, Justice Haynes goes 85. Or on 3rd and 13, Jalen Milroe backs up and Ryan Williams is running wide open down the sideline. Those are plays that you want to make. So, ball control is good. Unless the reason you don't have ball control is you're making a lot of explosive plays for touchdowns. And that's kind of what happened on Saturday night. But I really like this Alabama team, and I think that they're going to be hard to handle this season. So I've already, before the season started, picked them to win the SEC in my SEC Media Day picks. And, obviously I'm going to stand by that. And that was not the norm. Alabama was picked 3rd behind Georgia and Texas, but I got them winning it. And as I said yesterday, I think the ceiling for this team, if everybody likes ceiling and floor, okay? Ceiling being the high end, floor being the low end. That's become a very popular term. I didn't invent it, but I'll use it because everybody else does. The ceiling for this team is the national championship. That's the ceiling. If Alabama plays as good as it can play and maximizes, the high end for Alabama is winning it all. I think that's the high end. The low end, to me, is making a playoff. I think that's the low end. I think this team, if it doesn't make the playoff, and I've said this before the season, it's a really bad year. This team should be in the college football playoff, and I think they will be. I think that's the low end. I think the high end is they win it all. I think Alabama can beat anybody they play, including Georgia, which, again, I give Georgia a lot of credit for the run they're on, but this feeling that they're above everybody else, for the most part, maybe it's true, but they're not above Alabama. Let's be honest. Kirby got the one national championship game win over Alabama, but, that same season, Alabama beat them in the SEC championship game, and then last year beat them in the SEC championship game again. They kept them out of the playoff. So, anyway, I'm obviously very, very strong, very, very bullish on Alabama, and will continue to be. So, other games we're going to run down here this morning for the SEC schedule. We're going to look ahead coming up on the show. Also, going to talk some NFL, even though we don't have Kayla on today. I'm not going to necessarily talk specifically Titans, but I'm going to talk about some Bama in the NFL, some guys I'm looking for. Chase, do you do fantasy? Okay, I guess
I do.
I don't do it anymore simply because I don't have time. Did you? I guess everybody kind of did their fantasy drives last night or over the weekend, or
yeah, I did mine over the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, who was your number one overall pick?
Lamar Jackson.
Okay, so you went quarterback. Who was your second pick?
My second pick,
receiver, I'm sure.
I actually took a running back.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Who'd you take?
It was
Barkley?
Yeah, it was Barkley.
Well, that goes against the grain a little bit. Very few people take running backs with their second
I believe
pick.
in him. I think
he's got that offense. He should get a lot of touches and should get a lot of pass receptions too. So I get it. But all right, phone number 205-342-9904. That's the number on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. So we'd love to hear from you. And I see we've got a call coming in right now. So I was going to go ahead and hit the break, but I'm not going to make Tom wait through the break because, Tom's one of our top callers. And when he calls in, when he talks, people listen. So we're going to go ahead and get him on right now on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. How about that, Tom?
Can I hang up and I'll just go with that for the rest of the
No,
life.
you gotta live up to the hype, dude.
Hey, Gary, I wanted to ask you something about, you brought up Georgia and how well they're playing and their ranking and so forth, and then you compared it to Alabama, saying Alabama can very well beat them, and we can play with anybody. I like that kind of talk, by the way, and I agree with it. And but I wanted to bring something up, and I want to get your take on it. Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, and the staff over there, they showed me something Saturday that I've never seen in them as a staff before. I think that they are maturing and growing in together and coming around as a staff, and they're pretty darn good. And I think the Clemson game shows where they have come to as a staff.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think they're, one of the best coaching staffs in the country. And Chase, grab that other line. Thank you. I think they're one of the best coaching staffs in the country. And I think Mike Bobo is a guy who's been often maligned, but he's really good friends with Kirby, and he has got a great resume. And he's been a head coach, and he's been a successful offensive coordinator. And I think when you're a head coach, you like having people that you can trust and people that are going to carry out the plan and see the program through the same lens that you see it through. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's got that with Mike Bobo. I did think they made good adjustments at halftime. Of course, I think it helps I'm not going to lie to you, Tom. I think it helps. Making adjustments is a lot easier when you have the better team. And they did have the better team. But still, at the same time, I'm with you on that staff. And you know what? When he got there, he was able to keep his staff together. Lately, he started getting hit a little bit. But still, Kirby's a lot like Saban, man. He kind of lays out everything that the guys need to do. In other words, they work hard, but there's no guesswork. It's not a situation where you go to work for Kirby and you're sitting there thinking, well, what does he want me to do today? No, he lays out the expectations and the assignments for everybody on the staff. And he has the same type of relationship with Glenn Schumann, his defensive coordinator. Same type thing as he does with Mike Bobo. There's a lot of trust there. Schumann was with Kirby at Alabama when Kirby was the defensive coordinator, and he's been the defensive coordinator or co-defensive coordinator. Now he's a complete defensive coordinator at Georgia for some time. So coordinator-wise, Kirby's got two guys that are loyal to him, that understand the principles of the program, and you're right there. They're a handful. That staff, that team, Georgia's not going anywhere. They're on a run very similar to what Saban did at Alabama, say from 09 through 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there. The key is, can they win as many championships as Saban did? I don't know that they can. They've won 2 natties, but they've still just got they've got 2 SECs total, but just one SEC over the last period of years where they've won the 2 national championships. So it's hard, but yeah, I agree with everything you said. That team, that staff, that program, Kirby's the man, one voice, and everybody is in line with him, and they're all on the same page. And they're going to be a handful for anybody. That's why they've only lost 2 games the last 3 years, and both were in the SEC championship game to Alabama. That's it. They haven't lost a regular season game now, going back to, I guess, 2021 or 2020.
Yeah, I agree everything you said. I mean, that's what I was thinking when I was watching the game. And here's the thing that was key to me, and I'll get out of the way. I didn't mean to dominate, but the way they approached the first quarter, they just they hung in there. They tried this, they tried that, and and you had Clemson. Clemson came in and they sold out on the run. They sold out on the run, and when somebody does that, you kind of got to figure it out, and see how you're going to attack it. And then they started attacking on the perimeter, and that's when they gashed them. And I just think that showed a sign of maturity amongst that staff. And to me, that's what worries me about them coming to Tuscaloosa.
Well, yeah, there's plenty to worry about. There's no doubt. I mean, but at the same time, they can beat Alabama. I know that, but Alabama can beat them. I mean, it's going to be a heck of a football game. It's probably going to come down to, who makes the least amount of mistakes. And I do like the fact that Alabama's at home. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Tom.
Yeah, buddy. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. It's 9:16 here on the Gary Harris Show. And, Roland and Tony, y'all hold tight. We're going to get to you on the other side of the
Tidwell Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 26 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-2503.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and Three.
Nowhere at airport security. There's more to imagine when you listen. Discover best-selling action titles on Audible.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama. On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:20, some breaking news from the NFL. According to media reports, the Broncos and first-team All-Pro cornerback Patrick Surtain II have agreed to a massive 4-year, $96 million contract extension with $77.5 million guaranteed. Surtain becomes the highest-paid defensive back in NFL history. Another Bama in the NFL update, getting paid. Former Crimson Tide standout Patrick Surtain, the highest-paid DB now in NFL history. How about that? All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. We're going to lead off with, actually, I think it's Tony that got in first. We're going to lead off with Tony, and then we'll get to Roland. Good morning, Tony. How are you?
Doing well, Gary. You doing okay?
Yes, sir, my friend.
Excellent. I believe I could live off that salary. That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah, I think you can make it.
He's earned it. What I was going to say is, Gary, I agree with everything you said about Alabama. I think we're going to be a team to deal with. But I do have a question, kind of off Alabama a little bit, just get your opinion. You're a little older than me, so you remember the SEC. I started paying real good attention to the SEC in the early to mid-'80s. Gary, in your opinion, was Florida before Spurrier ever a team that you had to reckon with? Were they somebody that was going to win the SEC?
No, here's what Florida was. Florida would flash. I mean, Coach Bryant allegedly said if Florida ever gets the right coach, it's over for all of us, because he, at least that was attributed to him. But I think people in the SEC felt like they had everything that you needed there with the location and the recruiting base and all that. But no, Spurrier won a Heisman there in the 60s. Doug Dickey had some success as a head coach. Then Charlie Pell came in and immediately upgraded the talent level, although they later got in trouble for it. In 1984, they won the SEC, but they were stripped of the title. So yes and no, they flashed through the 70s, but no, they never ever really lived up to their potential and were considered a national power until Steve Spurrier. When Spurrier took over after his run at Duke, if it weren't for Steve Spurrier, Gene Stallings would have won at least a couple more SECs and probably another natty. So Spurrier was the guy that put them over the top. And then after the fiasco with Zook, Urban Meyer, did the same. But now Florida has kind of, to your point, Tony, they've kind of gone back to being what they were, pre-Spurrier. You always look at Florida and you never say, gimme. You always say, well, they're Florida. They're Florida Gators. But right now, the product is average. I mean, to mediocre, I guess, over the last several years.
That was my main question. I guess what my other point is, Gary, it's going to take, in my opinion, if you look at the coaches that have won there, Big, Spurrier, Meyer, those are elite head coaches. I don't know how many. It's going to take a very, very good football coach to come in there and bring Florida to what they were in the 90s and even in the early to mid-2000s as far as that level of success. I heard that I think it's whatever the athletic director is there,
Scott
said that they can't keep they can't keep changing coaches every 3 years. It's not good for the program. But if you look at the list of coaches they've had, I mean, I don't know what I kept thinking, well, maybe if they make a change, I have a feeling they'll go after Lane Kiffin.
Well, I've been saying that all along because his bravado, his ability to recruit and you know, he's got a little Spurrier in him. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, I would, now Napier does have like a $26-27 million buyout. And you say, well, you know, that's part of it. But I tell you, these athletic departments, though, have tightened their belts a little bit because it's,
they have to.
Yeah, that's right. They have to. And so, you know, we'll see. But I could see Kiffin winding up there. Either he, you know, first of all, Kiffin has not promised, but he's let the few big shot Ole Miss people that he talks to understand that he thinks he's got a national championship contending team, a Final Four type team. They've given him everything that he wants. They're all in with him. So my feeling is if he gets them to where they think they ought to go this year, then, you know, he could be in high demand. If he doesn't get them to where they want to go, meaning the playoff, there may be some Ole Miss people that have said, you know, this isn't what we signed up for. So either way, but you know, we'll see. You know, we'll see what Napier does the rest of the year. But no, I think your point's valid. Like I said, until Spurrier got there, they never won an SEC championship, which is remarkable. Now they did win it in 1984, but they had to vacate it. But still, the Florida Gators had never won an officially recognized SEC title until 1991.
And that was my point in calling Gary. There are certain teams, Gary, that if you think about it, Alabama's one of them, that sometimes the program makes the coach, in my opinion. There's very few programs that you can take a coach and average at least 1 10-win season out of them. I can't name the last time Florida's had a 10-win season. I don't know when that's been.
It would have been
Look at Auburn; they're on a 3-year losing streak.
Yeah, it would have been Mullen. But your point's well taken. But I do think this. I mean, if Billy Napier doesn't make it, and I don't think he's going to make it, it'll be a critical hire for them. And I do think Lane Kiffin would be dangerous in Gainesville. I do.
I do too. That was my next question.
He's dangerous. He's dangerous in Oxford, Mississippi. You know.
Well, let's pretend. Let's say that Kiffin does get it done in Oxford. Who do you think they would go after, Gary? I mean, who's out there? That would like make the SEC say, "Uh-oh, Florida's back."
I don't know. I do think there are some good coaches, but Kiffin seems like the most ideal and logical fit in Gainesville. Outside of him right now, I'd have to think about it a little bit, Tony, to be honest with you.
All right, Gary. Well, have a good day, bud.
Thank you, my friend. All right, we're going to we're going to go from Tony to Roland over on beautiful Lake Guntersville. Good morning, Roland.
Hey, Gary, how you doing this morning?
Doing well.
It's a great morning outside this morning. Drinking coffee is just like a fall day out there.
Feels good,
real windy. Yeah. I know you're up against the time, but I just want your opinion on two things. And Tony just stole one of my questions I've been going to ask you the last couple of days. How come Florida has had such a hard time finding an elite coach since Spurrier? I know they hired Meyer, which was elite. But other than that, they've just hadn't went out and hired a great coach for the program that they are, because they're not in Alabama's class as far as a blue blood program, but I think they're an elite program and should be able to get a great coach. And my other question was, our defensive line. What was your thoughts of it, and how good do you think this defensive line can be?
Yeah, on Florida, right now they're going through one of those periods. I really thought Dan Mullen was a good hire. I was impressed with Dan Mullen at Mississippi State. He did a heck of a job there, and I think overall he did a good job at Florida, man. They were in contention, but they didn't feel like that he was recruiting well, and he probably wasn't a dynamic recruiter. He probably was one of those guys that, recruited more to, who he thought could play for him rather than worrying about how highly they were rated. And that seemed to get him in some trouble there. But they let him go, and it's been a disaster with Napier so far. So, again, we'll see what happens this season. But, Tony was right, and you're kind of leaning in the same direction. It's hard. Great coaches don't just fall out of trees. There aren't that many of them. That's why so many teams are always looking for their guy. And we'll see what Florida does. As far as the defensive line at Alabama rolling, I like them a lot. I like the fact that they played a lot of guys. They've got athleticism. They've got size. They've got some experience. I mean, everything is in place for that defensive line to be one of the better defensive lines in the country. When you look at the total number of guys that are available to play and the combination, like I said, of size and athleticism, speed, depth, they should be really good. They should only get better. So if the defensive line doesn't play well this year, that'd be a very big surprise to me. I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think just from watching the other day, I liked what I saw as far as how many they played, and I think the sacks would come. I think probably the other day they wouldn't play necessarily to sack the quarterback, especially after they got the big lead and all that. But every time Finley would, go back to pass, it seemed like we was all over him. He was hurrying his passes. So, that is good too when you make the quarterback hurry his passes and all that. You don't, like Statement said, you don't always necessarily have to get a sack just to affect the quarterback. I think it did affect him because I think he got a little edgy and started, getting rid of the ball quicker and having more incomplete passes.
Absolutely. They affected the quarterback. And, everybody likes to see sacks, and they got just one of those early in the game, Quandarius Robinson off the edge. But they harassed the two quarterbacks that Western Kentucky played the entire game. Hey, thank you, Roland. Have a great day there in Guntersville.
Thanks.
Appreciate you. All right, it is 9:30 here on the Gary Harris Show. Programming note, I am going to be live from Innisfree Irish Pub on Friday morning at 9 a.m. for the show. Also, we'll have the T-Town Menswear T-Town Gallery Alabama football trivia giveaway on Friday. And in fact, I got to get, and I think it was Chase sent it to me. I still got to get in touch with, I think it was Tony was our winner from last week. And Tony, I will be getting in touch with you if you're listening. I just have been, I've been going nonstop, but I'll
conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly sunny today with only a small chance of a shower through tonight. The high today 87, tonight's low 68. Tomorrow and Friday, cloudy with periods of rain both days. The high tomorrow 81, the high Friday at 76. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
For more from Tide 100.9, let it fly! And there's it! Whoa! Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud.
All right, 9:33. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Time for Matt Coulter on NASCAR. And, boy, we've had a lot of excitement this season. Matt, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm like Roland, that your previous caller, sitting out on the patio with, there's a lack of humidity. It feels a little bit like fall, but, we may have one more of those heat strokes in front of us.
Well, unfortunately, lately we have them all well up into October, but I'm still got my fingers crossed that maybe this year we're going to get a fall. It's going to be pleasant and cool and leaves turning.
Football.
And, we've had a lot of falls, Matt, where it stays so hot and dry that the leaves don't turn as much as they just die and fall off the trees,
Yeah. You're right. The last 3 years it's been like that.
Yeah, but hopefully with a little moisture and a little cool temperatures, we'll get a nice fall. I tell you this, I say what you want, and I track it every week. Highs and lows, controversy. Some people hate this system for the playoffs, but it has provided excitement. The last 2 weeks have been unbelievable with Harrison Burton winning at Daytona, to get in with the Wood Brothers in his final season with that ride and get them their 100th victory, his first victory. And then the Southern 500, man. What a battle. And Chase Briscoe, the final year that Stuart Haas is in operation, period, gets a win for the 14 Ford Thunderbird, gets them into the playoff. His only way really to get in was to win a race. And both times at Daytona and Darlington, Kyle Busch was the victim. The guy who came up short and will not make the playoff. Man, it's been unbelievable the last couple of weeks.
Well, and the Kyle Busch story, let's table that for a minute and just, raise a glass to what Chase Briscoe did. And it's really amazing the last 2 weeks with Burton and now Briscoe, guys that really didn't have a shot to make the playoffs, really you would never think are capable, I'll be honest with you, capable of the moves they made. But did you see the 14, the move he made to take the lead?
Phenomenal. I thought he just like the week before with Burton. I thought Kyle Busch did everything he could. But I mean, this Briscoe kid, and this is what people have been waiting for from him. I think a lot of the people who follow NASCAR say, he's another one of these guys that's got oozing with talent, and for whatever reason, it's been slow to happen. I think he's 29 years old, but he phenomenal. And Busch was on fresher tires. Even after he got out front, I was worried about him holding the lead.
That's amazing. Didn't you feel like, okay, this is a great move by Chase Briscoe, but that 8 car is going to reel him in. I mean, he's got fresher tires.
I really did.
Experienced driver. He is as motivated as anybody, if not more, on the track. So, and I also thought, well, if he gets up on the rear quarter panel, Briscoe's going to spin because Busch would take him out, don't you think?
I think in this situation he might have. I think being the final.
Briscoe would not let him get close enough. There was one time, actually a couple of times, where I thought he had bobbled just enough where Kyle Busch could take advantage, but he made another great move and he kept the groove, or he just managed to keep Kyle Busch in his rearview mirror, and it's been a great couple of weeks. It really has.
What does this mean? I mean, obviously it means that Briscoe's racing for a championship, but what does this mean for this organization? All of these employees are going to be looking for jobs at the end of the NASCAR season. Just a shot in the arm, and like Briscoe talked about in the post race, for them to hang in there, they could have checked out, but they didn't do that. And now they've got they got a lot to race for, and you're happy to see it from the standpoint that Stewart-Haas is a name. I mean, this is a major organization that's shutting it down completely. For them to have that type of success, what does it mean not just for Chase Briscoe, but for everybody in that team to stay engaged throughout the end of this season and have a chance to race for a championship?
Well, you could hear Briscoe, and then he certainly told everybody that, when he was taking his victory lap, he was just nothing but tears. And then when he got out of the car, he mentioned specifically how this win was great, but more importantly for the 320 members that run Stewart-Haas Racing. I thought that was a really classy thing to do. And you're right. I mean, if they had not made the playoff, are you going to practice as hard, when you're doing your drills in pit road? I don't know. You'd like to think not, but then again, you can almost understand it because they're stepping away as a group, as a charter group, from NASCAR, but the about midpoint point of the season, a little bit before, was really surprising. And, most of those people are going to find other jobs because there'll be somebody else taking over those charters. But all in all, for Sunday and for that team as a whole and for Chase Briscoe as a driver was just one of the biggest days in that team's history.
All right, we move on to the playoffs. Before we do the backstory on Busch, and I something very interesting in this post-race interview on USA. You might have picked up on it, Matt. First of all, he is trying to be cool, calm, and collected. He really is, understanding that how close he was to winning a race. Didn't make the playoff. His streak of winning a race every season, I guess since 2008, is on the line. But he made it clear in the post-game interview that he understands he's not in the playoff, and he understands that guys that are in the playoff don't like it when they get raced hard by guys that aren't in the playoff. But he made it clear he's going to try to win a race, if not multiple races. And I thought he laid down the gauntlet and said, too bad. I'm going to race to win. And if you don't like it, get over it. So I've discussed this before. It's the only sport that is out there where teams that are in the playoffs have to compete against teams that aren't in the playoffs. But those guys have a right to win races too. Matt, it's always you and I go every year we talk about what's the etiquette. As it gets deeper in the playoff, it's even more magnified. But these other teams are racing for their sponsors and for their crews, and they got a right to go out there and try to win a race too.
Well, they do, but there's also, kind of been an unwritten rule that, somebody's leading, you're not going to clip them and spin them out. And that has, year in and year out, that's pretty much been the case. But you're right. In fact, the two articles I read this morning said exactly what you did. He's made it very clear. So, I don't know. Really, inside his head, do you think he's coming up on somebody about to win a race in advance? And let's say it's the last race of the segment. Is he really going to take them out?
I think it depends on who it is. I think with Kyle Busch and his personality, if it's another Chevrolet driver, maybe not. If it's a friend of his, maybe not. Although he doesn't have a ton of friends, but if it's somebody he doesn't like a Joey Logano or a Brad Keselowski,
what if it's an Austin Dillon?
Duh. Yeah, I think obviously he would let Austin Dillon slide since that's his teammate. Although I don't think. Listen, Busch is I've talked about it. It's not a comfortable fit for him. You can just tell. He needed a ride. I get it, but Kyle Busch at Richard Childress Racing just doesn't. Something's not jiving there, Matt. I mean, you can tell. Even though they've gotten better, they're running really well right now. Still, he just doesn't seem like himself with that team. I don't know how long's his contract. I wouldn't be shocked if he looked to make a move.
I don't know, but I don't think it's the end of this year. But
he misses Gibbs. You can just tell he misses Gibbs racing.
Yeah. Well, he's 39 years old. He's missed the playoffs for the first time since this championship format has been developed. That's 12 seasons that he's made the playoffs, and 19 seasons since he went a year without a win.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how about that?
I understand. Yeah, that's really difficult to believe, but we'll see if he will or will not dump, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun. All right, we go to Atlanta to start the playoffs. All right, before we get to track report, although big people around here know it pretty well, but still, give me and our listeners, because all right. Everybody's that's in the playoffs are in the playoffs, but it's weighted still a little bit, right? How does it, kind of like the golf a little bit? Everybody's not created equal in this playoff, are they?
No, they're not. And by the way, it's not very popular in golf right now too, because Scheffler got such a big kick. But it's very, very similar, and that's why it was so important to Tyler Reddick to win the regular season championship, because by 1 point over Kyle Larson, that got him 15 extra points going into the way they seeded 1 through 16.
Right.
So, in a nutshell, I think that kind of tells you how they do it.
Okay, and then they cut it down after, from 16 to 12. To 8, and eventually, of course, to the championship race at Phoenix at 4. You get 3 races now with 16 drivers: Atlanta, Watkins Glen, and Bristol before the cut down to 12. So let's start with Atlanta. Give us the track report. I know I think it seems to be at least a track that's well liked by the drivers. I haven't heard a ton of criticism of Atlanta.
It's no, and you're right. They do like it, and it's a mile and a half. Kind of an oval, but it's banked. The banking in Atlanta is 28 degrees, and that's why often you'll see their speeds exceed those at Talladega and Daytona and even Michigan. So it's like a very much larger Bristol. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because of its banking, and because you can put it through the firewall and let it go. It's just outside of Georgia in a place called Hampton. It's a great little place to go watch a race, and I guess those are pretty much the specs on it.
Well, you get the first pick. You get to lead us off this week.
And I I can't pick anybody this year. I leaned on our buddy Jeff and his girlfriend Leanne, and I'll be darned if. Geez, how many laps did Larson lead? 263 of the 367.
He looked good.
Yeah, he looked good till that 14 came around. But I will note this: is I'm just kind of trying to put up a block here for my pick because I'm not sure. But I did see this. Kyle Larson has never won Atlanta.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, I just looked it up this morning. It's not something I walked around committed to memory. You know, some of me wants to say Chase Elliott. A lot of me wants to lean in Logano's favor, and I just think the way that Penske races when it gets inside the playoffs, I'm going to take the 22 Ford.
Man, you know what? You're thinking exactly like I'm thinking, and I wasn't thinking the 22. But I am with you on Penske. I think they have had strong cars lately. They've had some terrible racing luck. Going back to Blaney with the restart against Larson, when he felt like Larson jumped the restart, to Logano getting wrecked out a couple of times. I also, you never overlook Chase Elliott at Atlanta, but Chase Elliott is just. Ever since the deal last year, he's good again this year. Don't get me wrong, but he's not the superstar level that he was. I like the 12 here. We're gonna go Penske. So, but I'm gonna take Blaney. I think Blaney, who's got a really good track record at Atlanta, those Fords are gonna be fast there. And I'd love for you and I to see it come down to the 12 and 22. Wouldn't that be interesting if those two teammates were racing there at the end? So yeah, we'll both go Penske here. I'll take Blaney.
Would you have taken Blaney?
I would have taken him ahead of Logano anyway. That's what I'm saying. You stole my thunder with the Penske thought process as far as the fact that I think they're going to be strong. Well, I think Cindric will have a good car. I'm not sold on Cindric as a driver. I'm going to be honest with you. But the other...
they're all three in there. We'll see. But I would say I'm with you. I think he'll be one of the first out.
Yeah, but I'm sold on the 12 and the 22. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're battling there at the end. I'd love to see it. And, of course, I'm a little nervous about Elliott. I'm trying to let Chase stepped out for a minute, and the phones are ringing off the hook. Sorry, I got a little preoccupied there watching these phone lines light up. But yeah, I got a strong feeling that URI one are gonna break through this Sunday. I really do. And what is it, 3-1? I've got 3. Of course, neither one of us have won in a while, but I think it's 3-1, right, Matt?
It is 3-1.
Yeah. But it's not like I've been lighting up lately either. Of course, like I said, I thought I had Logano. Remember when Dylan wrecked him? I had Logano. I was already tasting victory on that one, pal.
Yeah, well, this year, you and I both have learned you don't take it till the flag drops.
That's right. You don't.
Because you don't know who's going to run out of gas, who's going to spin. It just, when a Harrison Burton's going to show up. So, but it's been a fun year despite the fact that I can't pick anyone to win.
Well, let's look ahead for a moment because, like I said, you and I both, although we're, now it's football season, but we both love the Saturday night racing. We're going to get one at Bristol in 2 weeks, and that's going to be it. Everything else is a Sunday race. But we get one more Saturday night race at Bristol, and as fate would have it, Matt, that's Alabama's bye week. How about that?
Well, that's great.
Maybe you and I can go to Bristol.
That's bucket list stuff for both of
us. something possibly to think about. It's just
I agree.
Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But that's something. All right, you got we're going Penske. You got the 22. I got the 12. We'll churn it out on Sunday at 2:00 Central on USA and see what happens.
All right, Gary. Roll Tide. Y'all have a great week.
Thanks, Matt. All right, it is 9:49, and Cameron, you stay on hold there on the Pinnacle Park and North River Hotline. We'll get to you on the other side of the break. Real quickly, I mentioned the YMCA is a great time to join. Always a great time to join, but even a better time in September. No joining fee now until the end of the month. Just sign up. No joining fee. Get started working out today. And personal training, 10% off all of their personal training packages, whether you do a single or a duo. All their trainers are certified. They can help you get to where you want to go. If you've hit the wall, personal training might be the ticket for you. 10% off 10% off all personal training packages at the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, 2300 13th Street downtown. All right, we'll be back with more phone calls and get ready to wrap up this first hour. I also just got a text from Kayla Anderson. Her meeting got canceled, so we're going to go ahead and get her on at 10:30 today. Why not? The Titans Report. We'll have that with Kayla Anderson out of Nashville as well. So a big second hour coming up with Rodney Orr and Kayla Anderson. We're back after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Wednesday edition of The Game, we're going to take your scores, your predictions, your analysis. We will do that starting at 2 p.m. We're also going to feature Aaron Torres, Fox Sports national analyst, Josh from College Football Nerds, all starting at 2 p.m. on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program.
Checked at least once or twice a year. Let your doctor know you are concerned about the health of your kidneys and ask what you can do to keep your kidneys healthy.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages.
And plus, don't miss our grand opening celebration Friday, October the 11th through Sunday, October 13th. And check us out at academy.com with free shipping on purchases over $25.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sky partly sunny today with only a small chance of a shower through tonight. The high today 87, tonight's low 68. Tomorrow and Friday, cloudy with periods of rain both days. The high tomorrow 81, the high Friday at 76. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
9:54 coming up in that second hour. Rodney Orr will lead us off, and also Bama in the NFL. We talked about Patrick Surtain, the seconds deal. I'm going to run down some salaries from Alabama players in the NFL. It's unbelievable how much money former Alabama players are making in the league. All right, we're going to close out this first hour on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline with Cameron. Hey, pal, what's up?
What's up, Gary? How you doing, homie?
Doing good, bud.
Hey, man, I told you, Governor, this is how it starts, dude. Someone took the lead on the old news this weekend, I heard. So this is how it starts. You start moving up in chairs up on front of the camera. I'm telling you, when you're governor, you remember.
I did anchor the news Sunday night at WUA 23.
Every little bit, man.
But,
just saying, when you're governor, you know, I just remember I called it, man.
All right, bro.
Hey, man, who do you think is going to coach Clemson next year? Just out of curiosity.
I think it's still going to be Dabo.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but
hey,
listen,
man,
it's legitimate to bring it up because there's a lot of Clemson people that are not happy with them.
I mean, is it really the transfer portal? What happened when we didn't have the transfer portal? Is it really that? Well, I mean, obviously you got to play.
The advantage when there was no transfer portal for Dabo was like Saban, like Kirby. You know, they out recruited most people and developed their players and kept them in the program. The problem now is guys are leaving. Including some leaving Clemson, not a ton, but some. And if you don't use that portal to kind of cherry pick it and fill in your gaps, it's just harder to build a program the traditional way. I think Kirby has got the right idea. You're still going to recruit hard. You're still going to try to retain players, but you're going to have an understanding that you're going to lose some guys that you would have kept in the past. And so you have to be willing to go dip your toe into the portal and try to pull some guys out. Kalen DeBoer, I thought, did a good job when he got here doing that at Alabama. They lost some guys after Saban retired, but he came in and, they cherry-picked that portal pretty good, including Keon Zab, who is the SEC Defensive Player of the Week.
So if Dabo doesn't evolve, he's going to be like the typewriter, basically, is what you're saying. And he's going to be.
Yeah. What I sense from him is, how sometimes, even in your life, somebody challenges you on something and you kind of dig in your heels and you double down.
Oh, yeah. He stopped taking phone calls from his show because they were calling him out.
Then you don't want to relent. You don't want to back off. And it's always like he's committed to this now. But I tell you, here's the problem for Clemson fans is they got past Georgia. They're going to win some games in the ACC. Let me tell you.
I was just thinking, is Georgia that good? I wouldn't want Georgia yet. My theory is, and I don't know anything, I'm just a little Gardner guy, is you don't know what team you have till like game 4, game 5. You haven't gelled yet. New coaches, new players, new everything, new rules. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't want Georgia out of the game when we got them game 4, so I would want them to see where we stand. But last year, if we didn't have Texas that early in the season, and we had him later, Jalen was more comfortable. We didn't, he didn't hold the ball as long. He didn't take the hits. He didn't throw the picks. We would have been, not that we would have, lost that evil team we did. But, do you want Georgia and Texas out of the gate this early in the season? Not really. I do because I live in Georgia and I don't give a dang. I'll take anybody any day, but I'm not on the field. But, it benefits you, but then it don't because, you just got whooped. Look at FSU. My neighbor's FSU. I feel so bad for him, Gary. I really do. He said they never recovered from Georgia last year. I'm like, that was last year. He's like, bro, you just don't get it. So, hey, man, last thing, I got to go have some lunch. Didn't, Texas A&M have, the highest recruiting class in history of man or something last year before that?
A couple years ago, they had a highly rated one, one of the highly rated ones.
So all those 16 stars or 27-star players, they're just kind of sitting there, right? Kind of going, what's going on? I know Texas A&M's got that oil money and stuff, but, so really, you can have the best recruiting class in the history of man, but I guess you got to coach them, don't you?
Yeah, all that recruiting classes guarantee you is that you're going to be talented. They don't guarantee you that you're going to win. It's a big step in the right direction, but you're right. You still got to coach them, Cam. You really do. Hey, got to go. Thank you, pal.
All right, man. See you, both.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for hour number 1, brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member owned and not-for-profit. It's just a better way of banking. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. We'll be back with hour number 2. We'll get it started with Rodney Orr. Keep it dialed in to Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
There's a new highest paid corner in the NFL. Reports say the Broncos and Patrick Surtain have agreed on a 4-year extension worth up to $96 million with $77.5 million in guaranteed money. With a $24 million per year average annual value, Surtain becomes the highest paid cornerback in the league. The Eagles have ruled out linebacker Devin White for Friday's season opener against the Packers in Brazil because of an ankle injury. The Texans and backup quarterback Davis Mills agreed on a 1-year extension that'll keep him in Houston through 2025. In baseball, the NL wildcard race remains tight. Mets won their 6th in a row, 7-2 over the Red Sox.
Visit us at 3537 Skyland Boulevard East or check us out online, bmwoftuscaloosa.com. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
35 wildfires are still burning across the state. That's down from 50 yesterday. The largest is an 80-acre fire just south of Bulligy in Greene County. But rain could help. ABC 3340 Chief Meteorologist James Spann says beneficial rains from Tuscaloosa south are in the forecast. The man who shot and killed Huntsville police officer Garrett Crumbie, who was also a Tuscaloosa police officer for 8 years, has been indicted. by a Madison County grand jury on capital murder charges. And Alabama is 4th in the latest AP poll.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Rocking and rolling here on the Gary Harris Show, hour number 2, and we're going to jump right in with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV. Normally with us on Mondays, but we didn't do a show on Labor Day, so Rodney is fresh off TITV last night with us this morning. Good morning, Rod.
Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Well, I'm going to blow your mind. Before we get into Alabama, this year's team, I'm about to, you may have already seen this, but if you haven't, Rodney, you're about to have your mind blown. I don't think there's any doubt that this is the only team in the history of college football that this has happened to this level. 2018 Alabama, which did not win the national championship, unfortunately. Right now, guys that were on that team, and that doesn't count Henry Ruggs, of course, who unfortunately is in prison, would have been on this list. You want to hear some contracts for members of that team, Rod, in the NFL? You know, Patrick Surtain just became the highest paid defensive back in NFL history this morning. 4 years, $96 million. Okay. Now listen to this. I'm going to run through members of that team and what they're making in the NFL. Jalen Hurts' current contract, 5 years, $255 million. Tua Tagovailoa's current contract, 4 years, $212 million. Quentin Williams' current contract, 4 years, $96 million. Devontae Smith's current contract, 3 years, $75 million. Jalen Waddle's current contract, 3 years, $84.75 million. Josh Jacobs' current contract, 4 years, $48 million. Christian Barmore's current contract, of course, we know he's out with a situation, but 4 years, $92 million. Trayvon Diggs, 5 years, $97 million. Xavier McKinney, 4 years, $67 million. Now, I haven't added all that up, but that's over $1 billion worth of contracts right there, my friend. Off one team. Off one team. Now, we're talking about the 2018 team, and that does not include Henry Ruggs, obviously. How about that?
Yeah, pretty amazing, man. I always thought that 2017 class of Tua and Judy and Ruggs and Devontae.
Best ever.
Yeah, I thought it was probably, is the best young talent I had ever seen. I remember watching that Vanderbilt game in 2017, and I thought that was the best young talent at Alabama I had ever seen, just across the board. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. It's some great teams.
Just blown away by that. Just
great talent.
Blown away by those numbers. It's just, hey, Bama in the NFL, it pays well. All right, let's get to this Bama team. We sat in the press box and watched it 63-0 over Western Kentucky. Talked about it, discussed it in depth last night on TITV, which, by the way, you can see Rodney's got it linked to his website, and you can also watch it at WVUA23.com. But it was a great game. A lot of excitement, a lot of explosive plays, but yet, as we said last night, still some things that both the coordinators and the head coach said this week, some things we need to clean up if you're Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you start offensively, you can't help it. You make big plays. You make big plays, you're not going to have sustained drives. I mean, it's just the way it is, and that's kind of the way this game unfolded, just a bunch of big plays. You had an 85-yard touchdown pass, 85-yard touchdown run, an 84-yard touchdown pass. You made other big plays. You had a 39-yard touchdown run. So when those types of things happen, I mean, obviously you're not going to sustain drives. And I think that's the one thing that, you look at this offense and you want to see them against a defense, competitive defense that can really challenge them, and how do they respond to those situations? Because I think that's really the mark of a good offense, how they respond against a good defense. Can they sustain those drives? Because that's what's going to have to happen, for them to be very successful in the SEC. So I think that's one thing that, as you start to look forward, that's something that I'll be certainly focused on in terms of the offense. I think the offensive line, obviously you got a bad break there when Caden Proctor went down right even before the game happened. He tripped, fell, got hurt himself, and that was really something that put Elijah Pritchett in a difficult situation there at left tackle. But he seemed to do a pretty nice job. I spoke to someone who I know knows how to evaluate offensive lines and offensive linemen, and he thought Pritchett played pretty well after the first quarter. He got his feet up under him a little bit and played better. I thought Wilkin Formby at right tackle, played really well. Graded pretty highly, my understanding, from a couple of different sources. So that was good to see him in his first start as a redshirt freshman play so well. The interior, we know about those guys, but so that's it offensively. Saw some weapons, obviously, Ryan Williams. And then defensively, they were really, really aggressive. I thought, some people said, well, they missed a few tackles here and there. Yeah, but I thought for the first game they tackled extremely well. And I talked to someone last night about the secondary. There's been some talk about, hey, they gave a lot of cushion to these receivers. What's that going to mean later on down the road? And I talked to someone last night, played in the secondary at Alabama, former player, and he said, look, I was impressed with the secondary. A lot of those young players played really well. They played with a lot of confidence. Just so overall, that the offense, defense, special teams, we saw about Burnham. He had a great game. Nicholson really only tried point after attempt, point after touchdown. So, basically, it was a good first start. Great first start, given that, you got a new coach, you got new systems and all of these different things. I felt a lot of the intensity, the focus, and all of those things that we saw in August camp kind of revealed themselves on the field Saturday night.
You made a great point about something, because I've heard a couple other analysts saying, well, I want to see Alabama, control the football and go on drives. Yeah, I'd like to too. But like you said, if you hand it off to Justice Haynes and he takes it 85, he's not going to fall down so you can run another play. I mean, if it's 3rd and 13 and Ryan Williams is running wide open down the right sideline, Jalen Milroe's not going to throw him the football. I mean, yeah, you would like to sustain the football, but you can't not make explosive plays if they're there to be made. So I think that's kind of a odd analogy to have. Well, I want to see them control the ball and have some 10 and 12 play drives. Well, they quit scoring touchdowns so fast, maybe they will.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm sure that trend they'll be explosive because they've got explosive playmakers.
Yeah, play better
there's no doubt about that. Yeah. But they're going to, they'll face defenses coming up where they're going to have to sustain drives and they're going to have to hit throws, short throws, intermediate throws to keep drives alive. And I thought we saw Milroe do that. Really, the throw to Ryan was the second one was right down the middle. I mean, he read that really well, hung in there, delivered the ball. On that play, Elijah Pritchett made a great play. I thought he kind of pushed the outside rusher away from Milroe, allowed him to step up. But, he delivered that. That was just Ryan Williams. I mean, he just broke a couple of tackles there and, scooted on into the end zone. But, again, it's you can't really and it is amazing. Like, they're faulting Alabama for not having sustained drives. Well, you really can't help that, right? I mean, you make explosive plays if they're there.
That's right. You can't not make them. All right, let's move ahead. Point spread wise, it's not a lot difference. It was right around 31-32 against Western Kentucky. It's right around 32 against South Florida, and these odds makers know their stuff. I think now that Alabama's beat them 63-0, people are saying, well, Western Kentucky's not any good, but they were pretty highly thought of for they're picked to finish second in their league, and going into this game, I think people felt like that it would be competitive for a while. But now the feeling is, well, South Florida's better than Western Kentucky. How do you see it?
Well, again, I'd like to see South Florida play before you make a judgment, but just guessing based on what I saw last year, knowing some of the players that they have and their defense, I think they probably are a little better. I expect a little bit better competition. I really do. I like the quarterback, Brown, that they have. He's really versatile. I mean, he's a multi-dimensional guy, can run extremely well. He throws the ball well, and he's a leader. I think they have a lot of confidence in him. I think those teammates of his have a ton of confidence in that guy. So that goes a long, long way. And he's been pretty consistent. So, I think offensively they may challenge Alabama a little bit more than what Western Kentucky did. Defensively, they've got some good players, man. I mean, they were good last year. I thought, again, Alabama was not, obviously in tip-top shape in that game offensively. But I think they go back to last year, like 9 quarters. They haven't given up a touchdown, and they went 4 quarters here. in this game against Bethune-Cookman. I think they won 48-3 or whatever. But so they're pretty good defensively. And I think it'll be a little bit better challenge, I would think, this week.
Yeah, they got 17 starters back on both sides of the ball, plus their 2 specialists. So, and Alex Golesh is a good young head coach, and you know, he said back at their media days event in the summer that they want redemption. You know, they felt like they should have won the game last year, so they're coming in here wide-eyed and looking forward to the experience. So I think right now I like the way the schedule's set up. I guess that's what I'm saying. You know, open against the team at home in Western Kentucky who's not an FCS team, and then to get a little bit better team maybe this week, and then you go on the road to Wisconsin before you get to your bye. I think the schedule evolves nicely before Alabama hosts Georgia here in a few weeks.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it certainly does. I think, again, I expect the competition to elevate a little bit this week, and then you go on the road. I've been saying that could be a game to watch because it is first road game under this staff and players together. You're going up there. It's an early morning game, 11 a.m. It's a pretty raucous place up there at the Camp Randall. So it's going to be a real atmosphere up there, and it's going to be a real challenge, I think, at least for a while, because I think, Fickell's a great coach. He's going to get a lot out of those players. And I know a lot of people are looking at that first game they had and saying, man, they look bad. But, these teams improve a lot usually from first to second, third game, early in the season. And I think Fickell's a good coach. I think he'll bring them along. But, yeah, I think that's a challenge. And obviously you're fortunate to have a week off before Georgia comes in here. So it's going to be real interesting to see how it kind of unfolds over the next few weeks. And, again, I think the concern to me is right now is this offensive line. They didn't have a lot of depth going in that I think they felt confident in because they're, certainly trying to build some of the young players and develop them. But, you got Proctor, who was, obviously probably out this game. I would guess he's out this game, maybe for even a couple of games to give him a little time. But whenever he's back, I just don't know. But then you had Pritchett limping around too, We saw him limping around. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he's 100%. So, man, you've got to get some guys ready to play. And Miles McVay, you might have to play some. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now I'm getting concerned about the fact that I picked Alabama to win at 52-13, but we'll see. Hey, one other aspect that we discussed last night on the TV show and was all the guys that got in the game. And, a lot of people are talking about Nick Saban didn't play enough people. In fairness to Nick Saban, most of the time when he was at Alabama, there was no portal. It was a different time. I mean, you could bring guys in and they would wait their turn and get their opportunity. Now with the portal, guys will bail on you. I think it's important to keep players engaged by playing in the games. That certainly keeps you engaged, Rodney. And they didn't wait until the second half when it was 42-0. They started bringing guys in, particularly in the secondary, but really all over the field early in the game. I mean, a lot of guys were out there on that football field in the first half for Alabama on Saturday night.
They really were. That secondary, I was wondering how many guys they would play, and I think it was the second series they swapped corners. They played a lot of guys, man. They played 8 times. I think it was 19 true freshmen that played. So in this game. So they got a lot of guys on the field. Maybe it's a little different philosophy. Like you said, times have changed. I think you have to get these guys involved. You have to get them on the field. They're going to lose interest. They're going to start looking around. They're going to start listening to people. And, before you know it, your guys are going to be jumping in the portal. It's probably going to happen anyway. I mean, that's just the nature of it. But, I think you minimize that or limit it to some extent if you get guys on the field and get them to be, part of what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy. I was trying to think when's the last time they've kind of played as many people as they did, in this game. And it's certainly, it's been a while.
It has. All right. Before we let you get out of here, because everybody's focused on the season now and rightfully so, but I know they're bringing in guys for visits at these home games. Anything going on in recruiting?
Well, no, I think right now it's just guys are continuing to take visits. Someone told me Dawson Merritt, who's committed to Alabama, of course, the linebacker from up at, in the Kansas City area in Blue Valley, Kansas. He is going to take a visit to Nebraska again. He's been there several times, and supposedly he's going there this weekend. I only say that to say, Gary, look, these guys are committed. I think they're going to hang on to most of the guys that they want, but they're certainly going to have to really work to do that. And then on the flip side of that, Alabama's going to be recruiting guys. There's guys that have committed to Florida that I think Alabama's already kind of glimpsing at, maybe to bring in. So you're going to continue to recruit, and you just kind of have to let it unfold because some things are going to change over the course of the fall. I think this season could impact teams. Some teams may fall off. Some teams, hopefully Alabama, as Kalen DeBoer continues to show his program, becomes more and more appealing. So things are going to change over the course of the next several months. I don't think anything's necessarily, stone cold locks right now.
All right, great update as always, Rod, and I know there's much more where that came from at TiderInsider.com.
Right. Yeah, TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with your credit card if you prefer. There is an address there to send a check. Gives y'all our premium information, but also, the All Sports Forum. That's our community of Alabama fans there. There's a lot of exchange. I'm on there. It's kind of like your show here right now. A lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth on our board there. And again, it's only $48 a year. And
the book, Bigger Than Bama, is still available.
Yes, it's it is and doing well, and it's you can find it on rodneyorr.com. You can find it on Amazon, $19.95 plus shipping and handling. They've got all the details at both of those sites.
Thanks, Rod.
Okay, bud. Take care.
All right, Rodney Orr, TiderInsider.com. It is 10:19 here on the Gary Harris Show, and I want to continue to remind you that the golf season is far from over. In fact, right now, some of the best weeks to play golf are ahead, and Tall Pines Golf Club in beautiful East Tuscaloosa is ready for you. They are accepting public play. Of course, they still have memberships available too. I like to say that Tall Pines is a hidden gem in East Tuscaloosa, the former Woodland Forest Country Club, tucked in that beautiful Woodland Forest neighborhood. Call to make a tee time, 205-556-1232, 205-556-1232. And as I said, remember they have memberships available too.
Fridays at the Free at Innisfree Irish Pub, 1925 University Boulevard, downtown. Come join Wyatt Fulton for lunch at Innisfree Irish Pub.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure
when you order. So whatever the size of your appetite,
there's always something delicious waiting for you here at Taco Casa.
Taco Casa, under the biggest cactus in town.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials.
You're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at VaxAssist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly sunny today with only a small chance of a shower through tonight. The high today 87, tonight's low 68. Tomorrow and Friday cloudy with periods of rain both days. The high tomorrow 81, the high Friday at 76. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3240 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
All right, 10:23 here on the Gary Harris Show. Welcome back in. We're going to jump right back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. Remember, Pinnacle Park at North River, beautiful gated townhome community near gorgeous Lake Tuscaloosa. Find out more at pinnacleparknr.com. JR is going to lead us off, and then we'll get to Pat. Good morning, JR.
Hey, how you doing, Gary?
Hey, doing well, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to make it quick.
Sure.
I'm sorry I haven't been contacting you much, but I've been going through a lot. A little over a month ago, I had an accident where I got a major concussion, and I've been dealing with serious vertigo, and I'm still dealing with it, but it's a heck of a lot better.
Let me say something real quick.
Vertigo.
JR, hold on. Hold that thought. Folks, and if you've been listening to JR over the years, this man is a trooper, a survivor. He has come through so many health issues and just keeps on ticking. Kudos, JR. All right, pick back up. I just wanted to give you a shout out.
All right, well, that's fine. But then that wasn't enough. Like I said, that's been going on a little over a month. But last week, a week ago Monday, I got COVID.
Oh, man.
And so,
that's still hanging around, isn't it? Yep.
Well, I have to say, this is the second time I had it in 20. And so this is the first time since then. But this was nothing like the first time. So I have to be blessed that it wasn't very bad.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah, but anyway, let's get on to the football. I got a question for you. You don't think that the team is getting too complacent over all the glory being handed out to them for the play and everything they've done? No. I'm just wondering, because you sure have been hearing a lot of people going, oh, this, that, the other, and not even on that the players, I feel like sometimes are, I mean, I know that they did some great things and all that, but you're playing the Hilltoppers, you know.
Yeah. I don't sense that, and I'll tell you why, JR. Number one, I think this coaching staff is going to do a great job of keeping them grounded, and I think when they watch
I agree.
Film, I think they're going to point out a lot of mistakes that were made. Number two, I think, as I said earlier in the show, even though Alabama won that game last year and this coaching staff was not here, the players that were down in Tampa, Jalen Milroe, one of them, certainly, that didn't even play in the game. I think they felt like, even though they won that game, I think they felt like it was almost like a loss. I mean, I think they feel like they got something to prove on Saturday night. Plus, it's Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium dedication. I think this team's going to be ready to roll on Sunday night. I really do.
I hope so. I do believe it. And I was kind of following up on my next question. I mean, I feel like that Central Florida is definitely a step up in you know, and a team that we have to be more considerate of. How much so do you think they are? I mean, as far as you think they're last year, I mean, was one thing, and there was a lot of reasons that I think occurred that happened. Probably one is just the quarterback situation, but two, how do we rank? How do we rate against something like Central Florida this year?
Well,
I mean, Central Florida, what kind of team do they have?
Talking about South Florida, right?
Yes, excuse me, South Florida.
Yeah, well, they got 17 starters back on 9 and 8, plus the 2 specialists. They're a good team. But I'm going to say this. I still think Western Kentucky's a pretty good team, too. I don't think Western Kentucky's, they're going to win some games.
Well, I agree. I agree with you.
But to answer your question, I think South Florida is better than Western Kentucky. And I think that, having that much experience and having their quarterback back makes them dangerous. But as I said, I think Alabama's going to be focused and ready to play the game. So I think Alabama will wind up winning it handily. I really do. But I do think it's a nice game. I think the first 2 games set them up well for what they're going to face going on the road next week to Wisconsin and then getting to the bye. And I think they'll have played 3 pretty good teams. And I think the bye week and they'll be ready for Georgia. So I like the way the schedule sets up, JR. Hey, thanks, my friend.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. I agree with you, and I'll talk with you hopefully again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, we're going to squeeze Pat in here before we hit the break. Hey, Pat.
Good morning, Gary. Appreciate you taking my call.
Yes, sir.
That question, I didn't hear if Rodney said anything about if we've got any more talks at all going on with Alford. That I really want Alford to put the, frosting on this class. And I feel like that if we come out of September undefeated, that would mean we had beat Georgia. That may come to fruition. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think you're right. It wouldn't hurt to beat Georgia. When you're talking about a player of that caliber, it's you know how it goes. But yeah, I think Alabama's in there. He did not mention him specifically, but I think that they're one of the teams that's in the mix, and play on the field matters to these guys. I do think it matters. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think Alabama's got a shot.
Yes, sir. All right, that's what like I said, if we beat Georgia, I look for this class to absolutely explode, and not implode, but explode. That that everybody in the country is going to be wanting to get on the bandwagon if we come out of September undefeated.
I don't disagree.
BC 1230 with Wyatt Fulton and Matt Coulter, presented by BMW of Tuscaloosa, Pearl River Resort and Casino, Tuscaloosa Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and Walk-Ons.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa at Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events.
And these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, it's 10:33, and it's time for the Tennessee Titans Report with Kayla Anderson. We had some technical snafus yesterday that kept Kayla off the air, and then she was in a meeting, but she got out and texted me, so we're going to squeeze her in here for about 10 minutes talk about the Titans opener. Hey, good morning, Kayla.
How's it going, Gary? Hope you guys are doing well on this Wednesday. We're getting one day closer to NFL Sunday, right?
Absolutely, and thrilled to have you on because it's been a great training camp, great off season. It seems like for the Tennessee Titans, a lot of excitement surrounding this new look team, but we know it starts for real on Sunday in Chicago. This is a Bears team, much like Tennessee, kind of going in a new direction. They've got Caleb Williams, the number one overall pick at quarterback, but I know that Tennessee looks at this certainly as a winnable game for them on the road. How do you see the matchup?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because you're right. These are both teams that are looking to move their franchises in the right direction. I think, Chicago's kind of struggled with that a little bit more with, the Tennessee Titans having some success before the last couple of years. But whenever you hit the jackpot, and we'll see, how much they get back from Caleb Williams in terms of, taking him number one overall this year. But, he was a quarterback that coming out of USC, highly touted, and rightfully so. Look, he has the skills. He has everything it takes in terms of his on-the-field product to be a star in the NFL. Now, can we be convinced with how he handles the ups and downs that happen within a season of a rookie? We'll see, right? Because there were some questions coming out of the draft about that side of things with Caleb Williams. But from all we've heard in camp from up there in Chicago, and I've got a couple people that I follow up there that I'm friends with, that he's looked good. And if you've watched Hard Knocks, you've kind of seen the personality out of him. He's a captain there in his first year with the Bears. So it'll be a challenge going up to Chicago where there's going to be a lot of fanfare. I'm sure it's going to be really loud there in Soldier Field. And I think the Titans, though, are kind of expecting that. And they understand, again, I've used this word so many times on your show, Gary, but they do feel like they're the underdog. And according to, any of the betting sites, they technically are the underdog in this game. But there's going to be challenges all over the board, but there are also going to be challenges for the Chicago Bears. And Caleb Williams, as much as we expect out of him, I think that Jeffrey Simmons, who is clearly a veteran here, he's a leader on this team, he's made it apparent like he's going to knock the nail polish off Caleb Williams. And you can bet that the big man, Devondre Sweat, the rookie for the Titans right next to him, is going to make things just as difficult for this rookie quarterback and really try to collapse that pocket to put that pressure on him. I know he's mobile. I know he can make off-scheduled throws, but I think it starts with that interior for this defensive line for the Titans and the offensive line, which has some questions with Nate Davis for their offensive line. So I think it all starts up front, and we'll see, how it shakes out.
Yeah, we will. When you look at the schedule, this first 4 weeks, and then the Titans get their bye, they don't play any AFC South teams. But one reason I think this opener is so important because, let's be honest, they got a tough schedule these first 4 weeks. They come home and play the Jets, and we know Aaron Rodgers is back, and the expectations are sky high for that team. Then you get the Packers at home, and then you go to Miami. Yeah, you don't have to play any AFC South teams until after your bye, but you certainly don't want to be 0-4 or 1-3 heading into that schedule once you get through your bye. This is a big game for the Titans, not just because it's the opener, but, you know, if you don't get this one, and that first 4-week stretch could wind up being bad.
I think it's a very fair statement, Gary, because it is a lot of newness, or there is a lot of newness, I should say, to this Titans team. It's, you know, Will Levis's second season, yes, but again, he didn't play a ton of football in that first season because he wasn't expected to be the starter. At some point, he had to step in for an injured Ryan Tannehill, but this has been the season where he's really had to work on so many things with a new coach and a new offensive staff and really new weapons around him, because that's what they did. They surrounded him to set him up for success. And so you're not only looking on that side of the ball to try to come out and figure things out, or at least get a little bit of momentum to start the season, but also on the defensive side of the ball, Gary, because that's a brand new staff. And there are a lot of new moving parts on that side of the ball. And I think with what Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator for the Titans, has preached for the last 3 months is how attacking, aggressive they're going to be as a defense. And I think it's so important for them really specifically to come out and set the tone in this game. And guess what? You should. You're taking advantage of the situation that no matter how talented Caleb Williams is, he is still a rookie. And he can be rattled, especially in the first ever NFL game in his career. So I think, if anything, this defense for the Titans needs to take advantage of that. But you're right. You've got a pretty difficult schedule to start the season. So if you can even capture 2 of those games, I think that would be a really good way to kind of roll into then maybe the easier part of your schedule as you learn more about your football team. And I think a lot of that rides on Will Levis. We saw bits and pieces throughout the preseason, but we haven't necessarily seen him let loose yet, and we know he can do it. But we've seen kind of the small things he's been working on, the footwork, those intermediate passes. How much will the screen game come into play in this first game? I think a lot of us think that could be a part of this offense that they utilize. So I am interested to see how these first 4 go, but you're right, Gary, especially with those types of quarterbacks, the defense in the back end that has been upgraded with L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie, to name a couple, they're going to be tested. So the offense also has to do its part. So it's going to depend a lot on what Will Levis does too.
Cale Anderson with us from the Titans Report in Nashville. Ramon, Kayla, and Will every weekday mornings on 104.5 FM there in Music City. Let me ask you about Brian Callahan. You've had a chance to be around him and cover him now. Just 40 years old, like so many of these new wave coaches. Didn't play in the NFL, did play quarterback at UCLA, but immediately went into coaching as a grad assistant, did some high school work, quality control, coaching assistant, kind of came up the ranks the way a lot of these coaches are coming up now. But just 40 years old, he's a head coach. Of course, he's got his dad, Bill, on the staff, great offensive line coach. But what are your impressions of Brian Callahan, and do you think he's ready for this gig?
Man, he's been phenomenal. And I will say I kind of had a feeling going into this that he was the right fit. He was actually who I predicted would get the head coaching job. And I had some intel from a coach that I used to cover in college football who became a coach, who is now on this staff as well. But I reached out to him early in the coaching process, and I said, give me your true thoughts on Brian Callahan. He said he's a winner. And he said, look, he might not be technically calling the plays here in Cincinnati with Zach Taylor, but he is in heavily on the process, and he is a big part of it. And I think what he did specifically there in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow is not as, I think, talked about, but he worked very closely with Joe Burrow, Jake Browning, who stepped in for Burrow last year and kind of didn't skip a beat. So what we know about him is, and you go back and look at his resume, and I know, yeah, you're right, he didn't play at the highest level, but he's developed so many different types of quarterbacks. And I think he's just a really smart guy. And what I've learned about him through the last couple of months here is he's a guy that is going to coach the new age player because it is different, right? I mean, there's a different type of discipline. They kind of want to be treated a little different than the old school mentality as a guy like Mike Vrabel was. But he's also not going to take any crap. And we've heard when things don't go right or he doesn't like something, he's gonna say something. And I think his players really respect him. We've heard from several players who have been on this team for a few years now under Mike Vrabel, Harold Landry specifically recently, who was a big fan of Mike Vrabel. He said there's just something different about this atmosphere. He kind of allows us to be ourselves, and he trusts us in terms of the game prep process. He also trusts his assistants to kind of do their jobs. And I think that's going to be a big part of this team moving forward, is he puts trust in other people to get the best out of their players, or just the player getting the best out of themselves. That's one thing I think we start to question now about Vrabel. While he had some really good years here, I think he wasn't for everyone. I think Brian Callahan is for everyone.
Wow. Will State, our final minute. Go ahead and tell us Sunday. What's your prediction on this game?
Man, I've gone back and forth on this, Gary. I think it's hard because when you're so close to the situation as I am here with the Titans, and you've seen so much when you've been here in the preseason and at these games and at these practices, I really do think they are going to have a heck of a defensive plan for Caleb Williams. And again, I'm not fully in or out on Caleb Williams yet, but what I am in on is his first game, whether or not he wants to admit he's going to have any type of nerves. Jeffrey Simmons and company are going to give him some nerves. And I think that they're going to have a game plan to make it a little difficult for him. And so I think the Titans will probably come out of this one as the winner. It's going to be close, though. I think Will Levis will be kind of having his own growing process on the field. But I just think this Denard Wilson defense is going to surprise a lot of people because they haven't fully released who they are yet. And so I've got the Titans, I'd say by 3 in this one.
Going with Tennessee. Folks, you can listen to her weekday mornings from 6 until 10 a.m. Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville. Find her on X, previously Twitter, at Kayla Anderson TV. Thanks, Kayla.
Thanks, Gary. Take care, guys.
All right, 10:45 here on the Gary Harris Show, and we got one final break to get to. We're still wide open for phone calls on the other side of the break. 205-342-9904 is the number to the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Got one final segment. Love to hear from you, and been a good show this morning. We'll be right back after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Wednesday edition of The Game, we're going to take your scores, your predictions, your analysis. We will do that starting at 2 p.m. We're also going to feature Aaron Torres, Fox Sports national analyst, Josh from College Football Nerds, all starting at 2 p.m. on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa.
100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs. 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly sunny today with only a small chance of a shower through tonight. The high today 87, tonight's low 68. Tomorrow and Friday cloudy with periods of rain both days. The high tomorrow 81, the high Friday at 76. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Find Tide on Twitter at Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
$10:49 back here on the Gary Harris Show, and we're going to head back out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and Tom is back for a second go-around.
Gary, good morning. Great show, by the way.
Thanks.
I wanted to address something, though, that I feel compelled that I've got to do.
Compelled?
And it was, compelled. Okay. And it was the discussion on Florida earlier. I think it was Tony that called in, was asking about Florida and their fall from grace, so forth, so on. And Steve Spurrier came up as part of the discussion. and I want to point this out about Steve Spurrier. Don't put him in an elite class. He's not. Coach might both beat him twice in 1 year. Once at Florida and once in Atlanta. So that's that. And people don't need to forget that. And then second, whoever takes that job down there, and the reason I do believe that Dan Mullen was a failure at Florida by their standards is because Spurrier maintains the office in the athletic building down the hall from the head coach. That cannot help a coach at all.
Well, first of all, I'm going to disagree with you on Spurrier. I think he is elite. When you look at the fact that, like we said, Florida, when he got there, had never won a recognized SEC championship, and he won 6. And he won a natty. I don't know. I can't agree with you on that one, Tom. So right off the bat, we got a difference of opinion.
Well, let me put another one out there for you to consider.
Okay.
On his eliteness. He was at South Carolina. He quit in the middle of the season.
He did do that. He did do that. Now
that he was going to go to Nashville and get his rear end handed to him by Vanderbilt, and he couldn't take it, so he quit. Can you be elite if you quit?
Yeah, you still can be. As a coach, I do think he was elite. And until it went off the rails at South Carolina, you got to remember he did some things they had never done before. I think, and what he did at Duke, he won an ACC championship at Duke. So, yeah, I think the guy was an elite coach. But I agree with you on how the way he ended at South Carolina was a joke. And I agree with you on this, too. He should have won more than one natty at Florida. I will say that. For me, he's still elite. His hold now that he's back down there in Florida is, I think he's got a lot of say-so on what goes on with that program, and it may be tough on a coach sometimes to come in with Spurrier hanging around. I don't know, but they got to do something because they're hitting. Florida's hitting that point now where they're in the wilderness a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, they're desperate. And like one of the guests on Inside the Locker Room said that, they've got to make a desperate hire, and they're at that position.
Let me say one more thing about Spurrier. Let me give you this one, Tom. Of course, you remember what they did. They pounced Alabama in 2010 when people were saying Alabama was like an NFL team. But he had 3 straight 11-2s at South Carolina. I think that alone makes you elite. When you can go 11-2 in 2011, 11-2 in 2012, and 11-2 in 2013 at South Carolina, that's in the SEC. That's doing something right there, pal. You got to admit.
I can't deny that, but I don't believe that when a coach behaves like he did at South Carolina, was a basement dweller coming up on your schedule and you're checking out because you think they're going to beat you, I just can't go elite on that.
Well, okay. It didn't end well for him, I'll give you that. But like I said, his coaching record is pretty phenomenal, though. So,
all right, buddy. Thank you.
All right, Tom. Good stuff. Always good points of view from Tom. I'm gonna go the other way on Spurrier, though. Again, I pulled up his record here just to kind of double check, but I mean, he won a lot of games, y'all. He won a lot of football games, 228 of them in college. So, and again, won an ACC championship at Duke. Won, I think, 6 of them at Florida, 6 or 7 SECs. And then, of course, had 3 straight 11-win seasons at South Carolina. But it did not end well for Spurrier. Hey, one thing I want to get into real quickly before we close out the show, because I have not touched on it yet. But the AP Top 25 poll came out yesterday, and Alabama's already moved up. Beating Western Kentucky was enough to move Alabama up from number 5 to number 4, because Oregon had a very ho-hum opening game performance, and they fell right out of the top 5 down to number 7. So here is the latest AP poll from yesterday. Georgia's still number 1. Ohio State still number 2. Texas still number 3. But Alabama moves up, or I should say, I'm sorry, Texas moved up from 4 to 3. Alabama moved up from 5 to 4. Notre Dame moved up from 7 to 5. Ole Miss stayed at 6. Oregon dropped all the way from 3 to 7. Penn State remained at number 8. Missouri moved up 2 notches from 11 to 9. Michigan dropped down 1. They struggled a little bit in their opener. They dropped from 9 to 10. That's your top 10. And then spots 11 through 15. Utah, Miami moved up 7 slots from 19 to 12. Then it's USC. They moved up 10 slots from 23 to 13. Tennessee is 14. Oklahoma's 15. Oklahoma State 16. Kansas State 17. LSU dropped from 13 to 18 with their loss to USC. Kansas is 19. Arizona 20. Rounding out the top 25. Iowa, Louisville, Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, and Clemson dropping all the way from 14 down to 25 after they got hammered by Georgia. So that's your AP top 25 coaches poll. Should be out, I think. It might have already been out this week. Wyatt's over there. He'll know. Is coaches poll already out this week, Wyatt?
Wyatt's out right now, but yeah,
Okay.
it should have been out like a few days ago. It's very recent though, like out the press.
Yeah. Here, I got it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I just pulled it up too, and we'll see how it looks. It's probably not going to look a lot different than the AP poll, but people don't pay attention to the top 25 the way that they used to. Georgia's still number 1. Ohio State's still number 2. Texas moves up to 3. Alabama moves up to number 4. Ole Miss is 5 in the coaches poll. That's a little bit of difference. Oregon is 6. Notre Dame is still just 7th in the coaches poll after moving up to 5 in the AP poll. So a little bit of differences there, but we'll keep an eye on the top 25s, but not nearly as important as they once were. All right, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. Before I do get out of here, though, I want to remind you lunchtime is here, and Los Tarascos is ready to serve you lunch at 3 great locations. Right down the street from me at Skyland Boulevard, Highway 69 North in Northport, and their newest location downtown at Timerson Square. Authentic Mexican cuisine. You cannot beat Los Tarascos for a great dining experience. Try them for lunch today at one of their 3 locations in Tuscaloosa. All right, catch me on TV tonight with your local sports on WVUA 23. Then back here tomorrow for the Thursday edition of the Gary Harris Show. The Coach Ellis Johnson among our guests tomorrow. We'll look forward to visiting with Coach, and we'll talk to you then. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to